All right, so I'm moving on now to sources 3 and 4. So source number 3 is a list. And it says, is consensus decision making right for your group? Advantages of consensus decision making. So these are the pros. Consensus decision making helps build trust and a sense of community. Everyone's ideas are included, which leads to a wider range of possible solutions. The solutions are supported by the whole group. But reaching a consensus may be difficult if, so these are the cons. The group has not worked together before or is too large, 15 or more. So I put a number and statistics symbol there because it gives the specific number of 15 as being a group that's too large to reach consensus. Some members do not understand or accept the consensus-seeking process or argue, bully, or intimidate others. So I tagged bully and intimidate as extreme language. The issue is complicated with few viable solutions available. One member has more power than others. This may discourage others from speaking freely. There is a lack of trust among group members. There is not enough time for discussion. Group leaders try to control outcomes rather than facilitate discussion. One or two dissenters hold up the whole process. Or there is no agreed upon consensus process for the group to use. And at the bottom here where it says discuss and decide, it says when might making a decision by consensus not be the best method to use. So the previous source asked you to list the pros to consensus, and this one is asking you to think about the cons. And this list just gave you a whole multitude of cons. So pick the ones that you agree with most, that make the most sense to you, and you can jot them down here at the bottom. All right, source number 4 are letters to the editor. So when people write letters to the editor, they are voicing their opinion, usually in support of something or against something that's been happening in the news. And the newspaper will publish them so that the public can see what other members of the public think about this. So the first one says, I'm writing to protest the school board's recent adoption of the consensus decision-making method to decide grade promotion policy. This is not a situation where it is appropriate to choose a course of action by finding something that everyone can agree on. Maybe everyone agrees on a plan that makes no sense at all. Decisions about grade promotion should be made by administrators who have responsibility and experts who have special knowledge. We owe our students the best decisions, not just the most popular ones. So he's arguing against deciding by consensus. I'm going to look at the source here, and we've seen this name before, Jesse Vandelaar, deputy principal. So he's the same source from that newspaper article on the previous page from those quoted words. And it says right here that he is a principal of the school. So he's got some insider knowledge about this. All right, so let's see what the other letter to the editor says. This one says, congratulations to the school board for choosing to make their policy decisions by consensus. No longer will the policies they adopt be the subject of bitter disagreements and lackluster support. So those two words, bitter and lackluster, that's extreme language. We parents will no longer feel like cats who have left the mice to play. When the whole school board unites behind a plan, then teachers, parents, and students will unite behind it as well. A plan which has been taking into consideration the opinions and interests of all the members and survived extensive debate is a plan that will stand the test of time. In a world with far too much strife and conflict, few leaders seem to have the skills needed to compromise and work together effectively. Hats off to the school board for leading by example. All right, so this person is for reaching consensus. She thinks it's a good idea. And looking at the source here, her name is Mary Ann Dunlop, and she is a parent. So we haven't seen her name before. She wasn't in the previous article. We had a different parent being quoted in the previous article. But she also seems to think that reaching consensus is a good idea. So the task here at the bottom says discuss and decide which claims in one letter are not directly refuted in the other letter. So again, a claim is the central argument of the letter, the point that the person writing this is trying to make, the main reason they are for or against this issue. And then it says it's not directly refuted in the other letter. So when you refute something, you're arguing with it, or you're trying to disprove it. So you're trying to prove that they are incorrect. So we need to look back at both of these letters and think about what the central claim of these letters are, and if the letter takes into consideration the claim of the other side and tries to argue with that claim. So looking back at this first letter that's against reaching consensus, I want to think about, well, why is this principal against reaching consensus? And really, he's against it because just because people agree on something doesn't mean it's the best decision to make. So I'm going to underline here, maybe everyone agrees on a plan that makes no sense at all. Decisions about grade promotion should be made by administrators who have a responsibility and experts who have special knowledge. Okay, so that's really where his central claim is stated. That he thinks these decisions about grade promotion should be made by people within the school. It shouldn't be made by the school board, who maybe don't understand the full scope of why some students are promoted and some students are not. All right, now this one, I need to think about what their central claim is. And this person, again, is for consensus. And really, they are saying that it's best to agree, and that if the school board agrees, then teachers, parents, and students will unite behind it as well. So I'm going to box this in as being really the central claim. Okay, and this idea that leaders need to have the skills to compromise. So this person feels that it's best to compromise because then everyone will be united. All right, so returning to this question back here, which claims in one letter are not directly refuted in the other letter? Well, the principal is arguing that just because everyone agrees doesn't mean it's the best plan. And this article here doesn't really address that at all. So they don't talk about whether or not it's the best plan. It doesn't seem to really even matter to this person if it's the best plan or not. What really matters to them is that the school committee doesn't argue and can agree, and everyone can be united. So that's what I would say down here, that this letter does not refute the idea that consensus might not mean that it's the best plan. All right. So finish the tasks at the bottom of both of these pages.